Alright, here's what we got going on today. Carbohydrates as post-workout nutrition. So first off, what the hell is a carbohydrate? Carbohydrate is a macronutrient with a caloric value to it, basically. So other macronutrients or macros include protein and fat. The reason we want carbohydrate though is because as far as recovery goes, we want glucose or sugar. So carbohydrates will always break down into sugars or glucose, glycogen, whatever. Protein will sometimes, only when it's in excess, and it's a slower process. So in terms of recovery, we want to recover as fast as we can. That's not really what we want. And fat will never convert to it. So carbohydrates, for that reason, are going to be one of your best things to use as a recovery. So when you ingest carbohydrates and they go through your process of digestion, that's called catabolism. Just keep that in mind for later. I know that's not super exciting right now, but it'll make sense. We'll come full circle. So I ingest my carbohydrates, and we'll talk about what kind later, but just chill out, man. I ingest my carbohydrates, and then it's not as simple as this, but they'll wind up in my bloodstream, and then from there be delivered to my muscles, but only after I've had a manipulation of insulin. So that being, in this case, working out. So the manipulation of insulin, pretty much, if you imagine this is your bloodstream, manipulation of insulin, think of it like a little gateway. If this is like the highway, this is a little gateway, a little off-ramp, that will allow that glucose that's been broken down from our carbohydrates into the muscles for muscle growth and repair. So at the moment you're probably thinking, yeah, well that's sweet, why do they get such a bad rap then? The reason carbohydrates get such a bad rap is because if you aren't doing anything to promote muscle contraction, which in turn will promote glucose transport, then this little gateway is essentially closed off. Essentially. So there's 3 places in the body where your body can store carbohydrates or glucose, sorry. Muscles, for one, only when you've manipulated that insulin. So only when this gateway is open will it go into there and help you out. The other times, if you're just sitting on the couch, just crushing carbs, it will be stored in fat or as fat and in the liver. So that's why carbohydrates get such a bad rap. But as far as recovery goes, you can kind of see if I can manipulate that insulin or work out, then they're going to be my best bet. So if you're thinking, well, I'm not really keen on, bulking up, I'm just in CrossFit or I'm in my whatever given sport just to tone up a bit, then this is something you still need to consider or at least talk to your coach about, because if you're just like, well, I don't really give a shit about that, so I'm just going to crack on and do my thing, I don't care about this gateway because I'm just trying to tone everything that's in here, what will happen is, if you think back to the catabolism part of the breaking down of my carbohydrates, because that hasn't happened and there's no ability for anabolism, which is the build-up given by the carbohydrate, so that's the process. Think of it as my process of digesting food. It goes through catabolism and then I can use it as some sort of fuel. So it gives the carbohydrates an ability to be used, and that's called anabolism. So anabolism would be carbohydrates going into the muscles being used as like a building block. So what happens is if you never consume that, then catabolism, think catastrophe, is going to occur in your muscles, so muscle breakdown will occur, so that anabolism, the build-up or the, I guess, sort of rebuild of the damage you've done is kind of not going anywhere because you're getting that muscle breakdown. So if you're just looking to tone up, this is still something to consider or to talk to your coach about, and if that's me, talk to me. So the best kind of carbs, the easiest one really is dextrose, because dextrose is just glucose. So if you think about the breakdown, transport, think of your anabolic window, which is the period in which I have to recover after my workout, is about 30 and 60 minutes. then I want my carbs to be as fast digesting as possible, or to go through that metabolic process of catabolism really fast. So if it's already glucose, it's going to go through that process pretty fast. So that's just a supplement. It's like one of the cheapest supplements you get. It's just like sugar. So if you add that into your post-workout shake, then that's going to be your best bet. If you're not really about supplements and all that, other things include like white rice, quinoa, some quick oats, stuff like that. But again, just talk to your coach, because it can get kind of a grey area there, just depending on what the product is. But it's mostly going to be a lot of the stuff that you want to eat on a day-to-day basis anyway. So, you know, use that opportunity post-workout to get that kind of stuff in. As far as how much, again, talk to your coach. Don't just, you know, take this with a grain of salt. But as far as ratios go, it can really vary depending on what your workout was. So it can be like, as far as carbs to protein ratio, if you're talking post-workout shake, it can be 1-to-1. If it's just like an average day, average WOD, it can be 2-to-1. If you've just smashed out like a hero workout, so if you've done Murph, it could be anything from 3-to-1 to 4-to-1. Or another way to work it out would be 20% of your total body weight in grams. So for me, that's about 17 grams. Times that by 2, so 34. And then depending on the day and my protein intake is going to depend on how that sort of changes as well. Another way that people kind of recommend is it should be 15 to 20% of your total caloric intake for that day. But these are just things that you want to study. Like, you need to look out for these. There's no cookie cutter approach. There's no, this is what everyone needs. Everyone should just bang this in. You need to do a little bit of research, find out what's going to work for you. But all in all, the overall concept of it, you know, it should work for you. So give it a go. I hope this kind of made sense here. If it didn't, leave a comment. You could be like, what the hell, man? I still don't really get it. Otherwise, see you next time. Thanks, guys.